Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Jill Lublin, and Jill is an international speaker. She speaks about radical influence, publicity, networking, kindness, and referrals. She is the author of 4 best-selling books, and she is going to be talking today about how she helps authors to create book deals with major publishers and agents. We might jump into about the ooh-ah factor, how to use everything you've got, return on investment on publicity, and so much more. Jill, glad to catch up with you.
Thank you, Robert. Delighted to be here.
I am delighted to have you. And I think the last time I saw you in person was maybe like 3 years ago or so. And I think I saw you at an event where you had a booth. And I remember thinking like that's one of those like kind of tried and true, has always worked, always will work. But one of those things that we always forget is possible, right? You always think about, well, what should I do to get the word out about my app or about my company? And you think about like, Facebook ads or podcasts or YouTube, but there's some of these kind of like staring you blankly in the face methods that are out there that people like you always know about, but the rest of us are unaware of. So what do we need to be tapping into? And like, what is your current message? What's your current positioning these days?
So I think it's really important that you always focus on publicity and, combine it with the social media platforms. Absolutely. But here's the truth. You think you're getting your message out using social media, but realistically, it's a sort of drop in the bucket. What I love about the power of publicity is its staying power, right? It's that power to magnetize, to monetize, and to multiply you. I like to call it the 3 M's, right? And get you that kind of visibility that you deserve. So the truth is, when you are featured on podcasts like we are now, and that when you're in, TV, radio, blogs, magazines, newspapers, you name it, guess what? Your authority goes up, your star, see the pretty star? Your star elevates, and people start recognizing you. I like to call it the I've heard of you somewhere syndrome. The truth is people won't always remember where, but what happens is your third party endorsement really elevates. That's what media does for you.
And when I see these people that seem to be doing really well on social media, right? Like you said, they don't just post on social and they don't just post on one platform. And I'll go and look at their average post and they have like hundreds of likes, hundreds of comments. It's like they're always doing these activities every day. And they're just kind of building up their snowball or whatever you want to call it in order to get that kind of I've heard of you factor. And it's something that I always kind of have to consciously look at and try to tap into. And I look at these people where like there's one lady that comes to mind where she's just some accountant, but she's posting every single day about I'm working with such and such client. I'm working on these people to save their taxes. She's doing live streams. She's doing videos. So I'm trying to get dialed into this idea of that you need to be doing all these different things, all this minutia that may have a lag time that may not pay off right away. But then if you put out enough of those things and you do enough of these smart actions, like being on podcasts or posting on social or speaking at live events or getting these endorsements, you put out enough of that in there and some of it will work out. And it might be a small percentage. You might not know how much pays off, but that's something I've been trying to remember is just like, how important it is to diligently on a regular basis put out these publicity kind of actions so that way some of it comes back.
Yeah, and I think, Robert, you nailed it. It's about being, I like to call it consistent and persistent is really what we're talking about. So what you can do is simple, easy visibility building activities, which is also what you're identifying. Simple things like, literally, if you allocate, let's call it an hour a week, divide it into 2 30-minute segments or 4 15-minute segments, if that's easier for you, and really focus in on, okay, what's one thing I can do right now to create more visibility? And it could be networking in your community. It could be writing a blog post. It could be tapping into a major news story. Like I have a relationship coach, and when Johnny Depp and Amber Heard were duking it out, I had her going to her local affiliates, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox TV, and actually pitching herself as a relationship expert. Here's what to do. right? And so you want to be always looking for opportunities, and believe me, friends, they are everywhere, to create more visibility for yourself and your business so that people keep remembering your name. And well, I've heard of you somewhere syndrome keeps happening for all of you.
And so that's a cool story right there, that that whole like idea of chasing the news, right? Of saying, here's this thing that everyone's talking about, and there's all these local news stations that want to be reporting it, and they want kind of the same but different response to it, right? They'll want some kind of expert in this matter, but they can't just take someone else's feed and put it on there, but they do kind of have to report the same news. So that's why there's this opening available. For example, with this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing, they do want to report on that, but they can't word for word say what everyone else is. So then there's the need for these relationship experts. And so, and that's one of those things where I hear about that sort of technique all the time, of like chasing the news and contacting the local news stations and kind of giving them a pitch and working on them. So that way it might not pan out this time, but then if you just kind of keep at it. And so is there something that people miss about that kind of advice? Like it sounds straightforward enough, but if it was so easy, everyone would do it. So what's kind of the missing link in, for example, that technique in the contacting the local news?
Well, I'll tell you what the missing link is: that you don't do it. In other words, not you, but I'm talking about your viewers and listeners. Take a step, my friends, baby steps, right? Pick up the frickin' phone and call your local news station. Your producers are waiting for you, who produce the news. Email them. And yes, if you go to their website, you can find emails. Sometimes they don't actually answer their phones, but you leave a message. They hear your voice. Yes, your voice, it works. And the power of the messaging is that the truth is they want local people and they need to feature you. And the reality is, do you know there are 10,000 radio shows every single day looking for 4,000 guests? That's a real statistic, okay? So why not you? And I think it's really a matter of what I might call first one to the phone wins. And by the way, it's not just email and it's not just phone. It might be LinkedIn, and it might be multiple ways to reach. Producers are really the ones who are making the decisions. So I find that either people are reaching out to the wrong person, like the host. They don't make a decision. They just look good on air, right? But if you reach to the producer, they are the ones who are making decisions. They do need real guests. They do need you, and they need you now. And I think people say, oh, well, maybe not me, or, what do I know how to say? Well, guess what? I'm in your pocket now. I can help you with the message. The point is getting a message that works, not always exactly what you do, but here's the cool super tip. Once you're in media, you can, shall we say, work the media and the news so that it features what you want to feature, what you want to talk about. That's important. And this is, it's not even chasing the news. The truth is the media needs sources just like you, who are experts in their field, who solve problems in the marketplace. And you know a few things. And I bet many of you listening do know a few things. So that's a really great strategy to use that works, and that works well.
And I like that a lot, that it's the focus is on solving problems, and that it's easy to take for granted what you know, and it's easy to have that low self-esteem and think that you don't know anything that people want to know about. And I'm thinking about just the other day, we had a contractor in the house fixing up the wall. And I'm thinking, man, there's so many little questions I'd like to ask him. Like, why is it when my faucet does this, why does it make that noise? And for him, it's probably just like some everyday thing. And so that's an important reminder, I think, that even though maybe naturally we all have like this low self-confidence, and it's important to kind of rise above that and think, okay, even though my feeling is that no one wants to know about this, maybe logically I need to listen to what Jill has to say and pay attention to just radio stations alone. They're looking for 4,000 guests, never mind the TV, the podcasts, and everything else. And so this whole idea of of solving the problems. I like that a lot, because even a lot of what you told me in these last few minutes has been solving problems, right? You said, well, split up your week, or just, make a few phone calls, or looked on LinkedIn. It seems like your mind is always looking towards problems, and it's or solving the problems. And then it also seems like a lot of your thought process is on putting a lot out and then looking back and refining it, and then figuring out, okay, out of all the things that I could say or that I have said, let me look back and say, ooh, I'll kind of coin the 3 M's there, right? Or I'll coin the consistent and the persistent. That way I can kind of package these things into something that's kind of friendly. And so speaking of making things packaged and fun, you have a prop. So what is the prop? Yes.
Oh, you saw me reach for my prop, which is the octopus theory of marketing. Yes. You need to reach your tentacles. You said it, reach your tentacles into all kinds of places. Publicity allows you to do that in simple ways that, frankly, doesn't cost a fortune. You bet. It's important.
And so speaking of this kind of the octopus and the tentacle thing, do you think that, is there a need for the average person with all this expertise to maybe like dumb it down, simplify it, make it fun? Because maybe it's like someone's first impression seeing you on the news, and you might have all these terms to say about a relationship coach, but if someone's maybe even hesitant to even listen to you, maybe it's important to have the props or have the fun terms, just so that way you're more accessible.
What I'd recommend is, yes, you have some props, right? And I, like you see my star, I like to help people elevate their star. Yes, have some props, physical reminders that underline your message, and focus in on short sound bites. Have things that are really simple in 5-year-old language. And I think people tend to complicate their message. So my big advice is that keep it the simple 5-year-old language, no jargon, and sound bites that are easy to remember. Like I've used one, the I've heard of you somewhere syndrome is a sound bite. And I think, that's really, it helps people understand and leave with something that like, oh yeah, I get that. That's what you want. You want people to say, yeah, I get that, right? Not, oh, that's complicated, my eyes are glazing.
Yeah. You don't want to impress someone with you being so smart, and you're so smart that no one else could understand you, because what does that even help? And it seems like what's going through my mind as you're explaining that is how it might take some work and some time and some thinking to condense the message. That maybe if you're stuck in this middle ground and you kind of know what you want to say and you can kind of communicate it, but it's all big and it's long and it's improvised, but then over time you put in the extra work to really shorten it into that soundbite or into that catchy term or into that prop. And it's almost kind of counterintuitive, right? Because the end result is this processed, simple, easy to understand soundbite or piece of information, but there's all this work that no one sees that took so long to get into just that small, tiny package.
The message is the most important part. I'll just tell you straight. It's, it's where I spend all our time in our virtual publicity course. It's usually what I do in my focus classes, because the message is what matters. And with that message, that's what you then take to the media as a pitch. And then once you're clear on your message and it's in you and it's resonant with you and it's who you are, and guess what? Then you can change it and modify it according to, well, this news story is happening. Let's take that one message and shift it. And what's great about that is you can always rinse and repeat. And you know it no matter what's happening in your mood, your world, the world, it's very confidence building. And what I've noticed in people I work with is that their confidence accelerates because they know what their message is. And that, my friends, makes a big difference.
That is very inspiring. And so what I'm getting from that is that we need to jump in despite the fear and do it anyway. And it might be awkward at first, but that's okay. You're just refining the message. And when I see speakers such as yourself on different podcasts or on different stages, it's like kind of using similar material, but adjusting it kind of like a comedian might, right? A comedian might make jokes for Buffalo, New York, or for Tucson, Arizona, or they might try out changing this or that part of it, or they might try tweaking the message as part of just like the kind of this overall process. And you're also reminding me that when I work with authors, because you have books, I have books, and whenever you're dealing with someone putting out a book, they're always so worried about the details, right? What color should my cover be? And when I talk to them, I kind of say like, well, what's more important is the message that you're putting out there. And there are people who don't have you and they're stuck and they have pain and they need help. So it's so important to rise above whatever little objections, hangups, obstacles, and just get past it, including the hesitation, low self-esteem, fear. Just get it out there because your message needs to get out there. And I also see some of what you're talking about here, where someone might get themselves on the news with something that is kind of in the ballpark of their niche, right? They might get on the news just to talk about like cyberbullying, even though maybe they're like a internet marketer, but they get on the news so that way they can have the NBC or the CBS graphics, and then that leverages to bigger and better things. So this is all reassuring to hear from you, because it tells me that it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to be awkward, because this is just a stepping stone to greater and bigger publicity. And so as we are getting into the last few minutes of our conversation, I want to make sure that we plug some really good links of yours. But I also, if we can fit in like a couple of sound bites here in the last few minutes, do you have one final, like really good story about one of these clients that you help? That way we can really get inspired and motivated, and we can run to whatever kind of link and resources you have. So what do you have as far as just a quick story near the end of our talk here?
Absolutely. Well, speaking of what you just mentioned, which is, I like to call that use everything you've got. I mean, all aspects of who you are, your personal story, your vulnerable story, your happy stories. You're one of my coaches, for instance, with, okay, here's the story. He has a son with autism. And even though he is a coach, right, a business coach, and of course, we actually are doing stories about how to have a great business and the very topics that he coaches on. I said to him, you know, you've got a son who's autistic. There's National Autism Month. You've probably got some things to say about this. Let's get you in there. Well, by using what I like to call everything he's got, guess what? He got featured in National Autism Month. He actually was a spokesperson who then drove, frankly, people to his website, his free gifts, expanded his sphere of influence because people related to him on that level. And that brought clients to him. In fact, a 37% increase in his web visits. Woohoo, yes. And actually the week he went out with that, literally, let me think about this. Yes, there were 15 prospects right away, 9 of whom became clients, like real coaching clients. Why? Because they related to him on another level and said, yes, I choose you to be my business coach. So what I want y'all to know is that the lines are more blurred these days, the more than you think, and that you may go in one way and come out with beautiful clients and incredible prospects, and frankly, larger spheres of influence and the opportunity and ability to reach more people, which is really what we want with your publicity, is for you to have impact and influence so that you can get the 3 M's to magnetize, to monetize, and to multiply you.
Amazing. It all connects. It all comes full circle. And use everything you've got. That needs to be like a book of yours or a speech or something, because like it's one of those, it's really simple. But then when you hear like, oh no, there's actually like specific like steps, and there's things to unpack there. But it's also, once I get it, like I understand what you're saying. Use everything you got. Use the life experiences. Use the minutia in your personal life. Use the past struggles. Like I just saw on Facebook the other day, there was some lady who was like former military, and it was something about like, if you're military and you're looking to be like a speaker or an author, I was thinking like, whoa, that's a cool way of using everything you've got that otherwise would just be like a line item on your resume or like part of your biography or something. But it's like, well, you know, there are things that people can relate to, and they pay a little bit more attention to you than others because you have the son with autism, or you are former military, or, you know, whatever it is these attention getters that we all need to be paying attention to use everything you've got. So so these people that are watching and listening to the podcast, they know that they can be more, they should be more, and that they need to use everything they've got. So what do you have for us as far as taking the next step? They're excited about these publicity opportunities, but they say, I'm so overwhelmed trying it on my own. I've tried all these things and I either overcommit or I just do that one little phone call to the one news station and I give up, and I think 6 months later, I should have done more. So if they say I should have done more, then where should they go to find you and get connected to you and get your help? What are the links, and why should we go right now and not even wait?
Well, thank you. Well, the first thing is I have a super fun challenge. Like really, I'll help you with your publicity, get it done, and give you the tools you need in a fun 1 hour challenge. Not very long, just saying. I don't like long. I like focused. I like get it done. And just like the media does. So go to jilllublin.com/challenge and come join me. Come join me for a publicity challenge. That'll be really fun. And then I have a free gift for you. And that is I put together great tips just like this in an easily accessible form. And you're going to love that. And then it's a two-parter, because if you click and just wait a minute, you're going to get a free publicity masterclass with me, live, interactive, and I'm going to answer more questions for you. So for that, you go to publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift. Let's get your message out there, my friends, because your message matters. It's time.
I love it. It is time to go to publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift and jilllublin.com/challenge. Should I get both of those right?
You were perfect.
All right. Awesome. I aspire to be the best that I can be. So we have that official Robert Plank endorsement of the Publicity Crash Course and Jill Lublin's free gift. If you out there in podcast land, if you've just felt like you could be more, and you see all these people who seem to they are everywhere, right? They have the I've heard of you factor completely dialed in. What if you just accomplished 5% or 10% of that? Or what if you just made sure that in the next 6 months, you applied a little bit of your weekly time? You put an hour here, an hour there, just to get your message out there. Maybe you could have an easier time attracting these clients. Maybe you wouldn't have to work so hard. Maybe you could even work less and make more money because you were working smarter instead of harder. And the way to get on the next step for that is to go to publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift and then jilllublin.com/challenge. So go there now. We'll see you there. And any final parting words of advice, Jill, because you inspired me so much. I'm so excited. I feel like I need to drink a whole pot of coffee just to go and call some news stations. But any final parting words of advice just to really put a button on our conversation?
I think the biggest thing is take the baby step, whatever step's comfortable for you. You said it, Robert. I don't know how I can say it better. You summed it up and you said it really well. And that is do one thing, my friends, just one thing. Pick it right now, do it right now, and know that your message matters. Your message matters. Let's go.